Hello, and welcome back to my humble show. I am your host for today and every other day, the Articulate Thinker, hopefully, here to bring you articles and articulation straight from Articulation Station, so be sure to like, subscribe, and enjoy the ride. Don't forget to turn on those bell notifications while you're at it. I'm on lunch break right now. I had to stop by the bank on the way home, so I don't have a lot of time. I'm going to try to cover as much Ron DeSantis news as possible in the short amount of time that I have, starting with this headline from Reuters. Florida's DeSantis replaces elected Democratic prosecutor who was funded by George Soros himself. So, this is not the first time DeSantis has done something like this. Let me know in the comments below whether or not you support this. Feel free to disagree with me on anything I say, by the way. Yes, I would appreciate any feedback as I continue to try to get my new channel going here. Check out my other channels, Articulate Thinker News Clips and Articulate Thinker Monologues, if you would like to do so. But only if. As for this article from Reuters, published earlier today, it says, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Wednesday suspended a county prosecutor after accusing her of being soft on crime, making her, apologies for that, the second elected Democratic law enforcement official to be removed by the Republican presidential hopeful. DeSantis issued an executive order suspending Monique Worrell, the lead prosecutor in Orange and Osceola counties, and replacing her with Orange County Judge Andrew Bain, who the governor appointed to the bench in 2020. So if you're riding the bench, just make sure you're ready to go in the game. Worrell's practices and policies have too often allowed violent criminals to escape the full consequences of their criminal conduct, DeSantis said in a statement. Worrell, elected in 2020, was not immediately available for comment. Fair and Just Prosecution, an organization of progressive prosecutors, criticized the move. This is a deeply disturbing abuse of power that overrules the will of voters and threatens the separation of powers. The group's executive director, Miriam Krinsky, said in a statement, more like Miriam Krinsky. And that was cringy in and of itself, so again, my apologies. Worrell is not the first Florida prosecutor whom DeSantis has dismissed. Last August, he suspended the Democratic state's attorney for Hillsborough County, Andrew Warren, who had pledged that he would not bring criminal cases against people seeking or providing abortions despite legal restrictions that Florida has placed on the procedure. I mean, if you're going against the legislation of the state, that's going to be problematic since you're supposed to be there to protect the legislation of the state, the law of the state, or uphold it, not withhold it, if you know what I mean. Let's see here. So we have a Worrell and a Warren. Bit of a tongue twister. Warren's lawyer accused DeSantis of targeting dissenting voices, but a federal judge upheld the suspension. In public opinion polls, DeSantis is running a distant second behind former President Donald Trump in the race for the Republican nomination in the 2024 presidential election. He replaced his campaign manager on Tuesday in an attempt to reboot his campaign, which I will get into if I have time. DeSantis' office sent a letter in April to Worrell's office demanding that she hand over the criminal and judicial record of a suspect accused of killing 3 people, including a 9-year-old girl. Wait, it doesn't say girl. It just says 9-year-old. I don't know why I added the word girl there. I guess it's because Worrell is a woman. At the time, the governor criticized her office for failing to keep the suspect in jail for previous crimes. Worrell responded by saying she stood behind all decisions regarding the suspect's juvenile and adult dispositions. And she is unhappy with this latest decision by the governor to rid the state of her work, or lack thereof. Yeah. Maybe this will make a nice thumbnail. I'm posing, just so you know. I'm not sure if I'll use it or not. Moving on to this tweet from Ron DeSantis earlier this morning, very early this morning, says 5:49 a.m. on the tweet, or shall I say the X, or whatever they're called these days. Either way, X marks the spot. I am appointing Judge Andrew Bain to step in and take over the duties of the state attorney's office in the Ninth Circuit. The people of Central Florida deserve a state attorney that will prosecute criminals and keep our communities safe. And for the Democrats who are complaining about this, I'll make a point in due time. Yes, so stick around for that. Ron DeSantis said as well, "It's my duty to protect the people of Florida. We will not tolerate a state attorney who pursues an agenda at the expense of Floridians. Florida is a law and order state. As long as I'm governor, it will stay that way." And if you are a Republican who is opposed to this, why exactly are you opposed to it? Would you call it a political move? No. Since there is an election just around the corner and he is running a campaign, would you say that it's purely political and therefore you're opposed to it? Well, I would imagine if your preferred candidate, most likely Donald Trump, if you're a Republican, did something similar, you would be clapping like seals, even if it was political. You would say, you got a campaign, so there's that. So regardless of whether or not it's political, which I don't necessarily think it is, because DeSantis has been doing this sort of thing for multiple years now. If it's a good decision, it's a good decision. So is it a good decision? That is the question. Let's see what he had to say about it more directly in this clip.
The state of Florida is a law and order state, and that means we support the men and women who wear the uniform, who protect and serve. It means we have strong policies to hold criminals accountable for their misconduct. Prosecutors have a duty to faithfully enforce the law. One's political agenda cannot trump this solemn duty. Refusing to faithfully enforce the laws of Florida puts our communities in danger and victimizes innocent Floridians.
By the way, if I wasn't clear enough, my point a moment ago was that something can be both political and ethical.
Accordingly, I am today announcing the suspension of State Attorney Monique Worrell from the Ninth Judicial Circuit, effective immediately. I'm appointing Judge Andrew Bain to take over as State Attorney for the Ninth Judicial Circuit. Judge Bain is currently a judge in Orlando. He is a native Floridian. He attended University of Miami, where he played football, and he received his law degree from Florida A&M Law School, and I trust that he will be a prosecutor that faithfully enforces the law and will keep the communities of Central Florida safe. Monique Worrell's administration of criminal justice in the Ninth Circuit has been clearly and fundamentally derelict so as to constitute both neglect of duty and incompetence. The policies or practices listed in our executive order suspending her that constitutes the grounds of suspension are as follows. One, a pattern or practice to avoid minimum mandatory sentences for gun crimes. Pattern or practice to avoid minimum mandatory sentences for drug trafficking offenses. Pattern or practice allowing juvenile offenders to avoid serious charges and incarceration altogether. Pattern or practice to avoid valid and applicable sentencing enhancements. Pattern or practice limiting charges for child pornography. Pattern or practice for seeking withholding of adjudication in situations not permitted under Florida law.
Okay. Sounds like he has a plethora of reasons for making this decision. So it seems to me to be a good decision, both politically and ethically. All right. That also was X'd out, as in tweeted out earlier this morning, a little while after that previous tweet. Here's a tweet from Florida's Voice. It has a clip as well, but it's probably the same clip, so I'll just read the caption. Breaking! Governor Ron DeSantis suspends Democratic State Attorney Monique Worrell, effective immediately, citing lack of mandatory minimum sentencing for various crimes, neglect of duty, and abusing discretion. Here's an article from the Washington Examiner, and I will try to speed through all of this. I might have to skip a few things in order to get to some more news about DeSantis, including the campaign news, the actual campaign news. More staffing changes, in other words. But for the moment, suspended Soros-linked Central Florida prosecutor blasts DeSantis as a dictator. And we are getting to my actual point, my intended point about the Democrats. Almost there. State Attorney Monique Worrell likened Governor Ron DeSantis to a weak dictator after he suspended her for allegedly neglecting her prosecutorial duties in Central Florida. And of course, the Democrats, such as Kamala Harris, who went down to Florida just recently to lie about how Ron DeSantis and co. Are trying to teach students that slavery was beneficial to black people. To slaves. Yeah, they're bunch of nonsense. But, people of Kamala's caliber are going to now spin this and agree with State Attorney Monique Worrell, or former State Attorney Monique Worrell. They're going to agree that Ron DeSantis is either a weak or a strong dictator, somewhere on that scale of strength and weakness. It's interesting to me because, well, in regards to Joe Biden threatening to withhold funding from Ukraine several years ago unless Ukraine were to fire a prosecutor general, well, Democrats are fine with that. And they excuse it as a justifiable attempt to get rid of a prosecutor who wasn't really doing his job. He wasn't really prosecuting much corruption, much crime. I believe there's a clip going around of Victor Shokin, that prosecutor general, claiming that that's all a lie and that the Bidens were out to get him, essentially, and that he was doing his job, even including going after Hunter Biden and or Burisma at the time, since he was in charge of that investigation, which was no more after he was gone. But that's kind of another story. I'm just saying it's a little bit amusing to me when on the one hand they're like, Joe Biden, sure, he could go out of his way to get a prosecutor fired in a country that doesn't even belong to us. We're not even a part of the policies directly. That's fine. But then when it comes to Ron DeSantis suspending or outright firing, we'll see how this plays out, an attorney in his own state, which he is in charge of, for failing to prosecute appropriately the same Democrats who were making excuses for the likes of Joe Biden are now like, actually, Ron DeSantis is the dictator here. That's how these things go, politically speaking. Worrell told reporters on Wednesday that the only thing to be mourning in the wake of her suspension was the loss of democracy. The loss of democracy. Oh, man. I'm sure she'll get a handout if she moves to another state. But yeah, that's what she said. The loss of democracy. And she introduced herself as the duly elected state attorney for the area. Well, of course. If we're mourning anything this morning, it is the loss of democracy. I am your duly elected state attorney for the 9th Judicial Circuit, and nothing done by a weak dictator can change that, Worrell said, except for your employment status. This is an outrage. 3 years ago, I was elected by the people of the 9th Judicial Circuit to lead this circuit, and yes, I do things unconventionally. Interesting that she would admit that. To do things differently. I don't know that it's your job to do things unconventionally. That seems like an unintentional admission that you're not actually doing your job. She says, but I didn't hide. I didn't say I would do things and I wouldn't do them. I didn't say I wouldn't do things and not did them. What? And not did them? Maybe you should go back to school. I did exactly what I said I would do, and that is what you want from an elected official, Worrell said. Or Worrell continued, yeah, you might want to go back and work on your grammar or something, unless there's just a typo in the article here. Either way, Florida has quite the curriculum now, so enjoy that. Attorney Monique Worrell of the Ninth Judicial Circuit, which serves Orange and Osceola. Sorry, I'm not from Florida. How do you say that? Osceola, probably. Counties, speaks during a press conference Wednesday, which is today. That's what this image is about. I'll skip the rest of that caption there. Ain't nobody got time for that. Worrell also claims she was being removed for political reasons and that her removal could only be justified if she had committed a crime, neglected her duties by not showing up to work and doing her job, or had an illness that prevented her from doing her job. Now, if there was someone on the other side of the political spectrum who was removed either in Florida or another state, she would have nothing to say about it. It would not be the eradication of democracy or whatever she thinks. So it is clear that she is very politicized, psychologically speaking. And just by this one article, the way she speaks about herself and her job tells me that she didn't really belong in such a position, such an apolitical position, supposedly apolitical position. But what's apolitical anymore? Worrell also claims she was being removed for political reasons and that her removal could only be justified if she committed a crime, neglected her duties by not showing up for work and doing her job, or had an illness that prevented her from doing her job. DeSantis argued in his announcement that Worrell had neglected her duties and was not properly doing her job under Florida law. It is my duty as governor to ensure that the laws enacted by our duly elected legislature are followed, DeSantis said in a statement. The people of Central Florida deserve to have a state attorney who will seek justice in accordance with the law instead of allowing violent criminals to roam the streets and find new victims. Don't want to end up like California, Gavin Newsom. DeSantis explained at a press conference on Wednesday how Worrell allegedly failed to prosecute criminals, including repeated offenders, and invoked the shooting of 2 Orlando police officers over the weekend. Well, that could have been the last straw right there. The governor also announced that Judge Andrew Bain would take over Worrell's role. You can click here to read more from the Washington Examiner. I'm not going to do that. I'll finish this article before moving on to the next if I have time for it. Worrell is the second state attorney DeSantis has suspended in the past year, after he suspended Tampa area state attorney Andrew Warren in August 2022. The Orlando-based prosecutor has been linked in the past to liberal billionaire George Soros, having received a boost from groups linked to Soros during the 2020 Democratic primary. She has since distanced herself from Soros, saying that she never met him and only learned of the support her campaign received from groups connected to him via news reports. Well, the point would be that he was only supporting you because you fit the build. You fit the narrative. Yeah, so I have this thread pulled up from Will Chamberlain. Worth a follow if you're on X. Today, Ron DeSantis suspended state attorney Monique Worrell for dereliction of duty and incompetence. Here are some examples of her policies or practices in action. This is a very lengthy thread, so I don't have time to go through it. I'll save it for later. Let's see what time it is. Time for me to go back to work. That's what time it is. Yes, let me just scroll down so you can see what we're looking at here. There's a lot here. She has quite the list of lackadaisical efforts. And that's putting it lightly. But I guess I could run through some of this before I go. run through this before I literally run out the door. DeSantis upends campaign leadership as Trump looms and urgency grows. Might have to save this for later as well, but here's a headline from the New York Times. The extension of the headline reads, replacing his campaign manager, the Florida governor capped a turbulent period of layoffs, financial worries, and a shift in strategy against Donald Trump, the presidential frontrunner. Another potential thumbnail. But I don't know if this will be the theme of this show, since I gotta go. Let me see how long this article is. Too long. Too bad. Something I can get rid of really quickly is this news of Ron DeSantis agreeing to debate Governor Gavin Newsom on Fox News. The California governor has been trying to get his Florida Republican counterpart to engage. On Wednesday, he got it. All right, another potential thumbnail. Oh, wait. This is not the focus either. Not the focus of the show. Here's a clip of the agreement, the official agreement by Ron DeSantis, or the announcement of the official agreement by Ron DeSantis.
You heard Gavin make the offer. Your answer is?
Absolutely. I'm game. Let's get it done. Just tell me when and where. We'll do it.
You heard?
Yes, we heard. So, not going to play that again. Newsom aides response to Politico article, and essentially a response to the agreement by Ron DeSantis to participate in the debate. Governor Newsom has been challenging DeSantis to debate for months and sent him a formal debate offer last week, November 8th or 10th. DeSantis should put up or shut up. Anything else is just games. All right, so Governor Gavin Newsom may have been running his yap for a little while, but the formal challenge was not made until a week before this tweet, obviously. And then as soon as Ron DeSantis received that word, or at least a week later, he was saying, yes, I'm game. So when the aides of Gavin Newsom, and he could potentially have actual aides, but that's not the kind of aides I'm referring to, when they said DeSantis should put up or shut up, anything else is just games, they're kind of trying to gaslight people into believing that Newsom is somehow winning this debate before it even starts. But skipping all of these details about the debate, which were sent through to both Hannity and DeSantis, let me read something down here if I can find it. Something someone had to offer. Friday, Newsom sends a formal offer to Sean Hannity. Wednesday, DeSantis accepts the offer on Hannity. Put up or shut up, says Team Newsom. Okay. Funny how that works. Gavin's team. Put up or shut up, also Gavin's team. We need until November to prepare. So yeah, this isn't going to happen anytime soon. They're like, put up or shut up. But also, we're not going to have this debate until November. Good stuff. Good times. Article from Daily Wire here. Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom agree to debate. I think we've got the gist of it. Ron DeSantis did tweet out, or X out, that clip as well. Actually, I think this is an extended portion of the interview on Hannity. The debate between California and Florida is already over. People have been voting with their feet for years. But the debate about the future of our country is one we need to have. I'm game to talk about my plans to reverse the decline in this country anytime, anywhere, because, and if I can pull up the rest of the caption, I have the best vision for the future of our country. I tend to agree. Mostly just with me, because I always agree with me. Have you ever disagreed with yourself? Let me know in the comments below. Ron DeSantis accepts Gavin Newsom's challenge to debate on Fox News. The California governor had touted his Florida counterpart for months. Or taunted, not touted. Taunted. Another tongue twister. Now, with his presidential campaign struggling, Mr. DeSantis agreed to debate, which would be a debate hosted by Sean Hannity, of course. He would be the moderator, and it would just be the two of them. More news about DeSantis. Stuff I had pulled up from a few days ago that I never got to. But, yeah, I'll have to get to the rest of it later. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, neighbor. Keep in touch, keep in tune. New content is coming soon. Peace.